Happy birthday to me. It's the 90s, baby! Look at that cute baby. Okay, that baby is me. But this just goes to show that everything we're going to be talking about in history class is the part of history that I have been alive for and have my own experiences about what happened. But going back a year before I was born, as George H.W. Bush began his presidency, Gorbachev continued his reform policies in the Soviet Union and the Soviet-controlled states in Eastern Europe, like Czechoslovakia. People were demanding even faster change and more freedoms. This pressure on communist government produced world-changing results in 1989, as pro-Soviet governments across Eastern Europe began to fall. East Germany agreed to open the borders, including the Berlin Wall. At midnight on November 9, 1989, a wild celebration broke out as East and West Berliners jumped onto the Berlin Wall, shouting and dancing. Some smashed through parts of the wall with hammers. The wall, which had stood as a symbol of the Cold War since 1961, began crumbling to the ground. Within a year, the two Germanys reunited as one democratic country. Several Soviet republics soon declared independence from the Soviet regime. The Soviet Union soon broke apart, confirming the end of the Cold War. Finally. But the world was not going to be immediately at peace. President Bush called for all countries to work together, especially during times of crisis. And a major crisis soon developed in the Middle East. In August 1990, Iraq's dictator Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait. Members of the United Nations called for immediate withdrawal of Iraqi troops. President Bush began a coalition of nations to drive Iraq from Kuwait by force. When Saddam refused to withdraw from Kuwait, a U.S.-led multinational coalition launched Operation Desert Storm. This air offensive was led by U.S. General Colin Powell, the highest-ranking African-American ever to serve in the U.S. military. After a 6-week bombing campaign, ground forces entered Kuwait. Within days, Iraq agreed to a ceasefire. About 22,300 Iraqi soldiers and civilians were killed in the Persian Gulf War. American losses were 148 soldiers. More than 35,000 American women served in this war, though federal law still prevented them from serving in combat. An overwhelming majority of Americans supported President Bush's handling of the Gulf War. But by the time of the 1992 election, the struggling U.S. economy had become more of an important issue for most voters than the war itself. So the Democrat nominee, Arkansas Governor Bill Clinton, Hillary's husband, told voters he would focus on improving the economy, and Clinton was voted in as the next president. Under President Clinton's leadership, Congress passed a budget designed to reduce the deficit by cutting spending and raising taxes. He also convinced Congress to support the North American Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA, which eliminated trade barriers between the United States, Canada, and Mexico, because it's important to be a good neighbor. By 1998, the U.S. government was taking in more money than it was spending. So now the amazing economy under Bill Clinton is what he will be remembered for throughout the rest of history. He wishes. No. Clinton's second term in office was dominated by questions about his personal and official conduct. Government investigation charged that the president had conducted an improper relationship with a White House intern, and then he lied about it under oath. In 1998, the House of Representatives voted to impeach Clinton for obstruction of justice. The Senate acquitted him of the charges in 1999. But the scandal damaged Clinton's public image. But his approval rating remained high. So apparently rich men can get away with anything. The collapse of the Soviet Union left the United States as the world's only superpower left. In 1997, President Clinton appointed Madeleine Albright as the first woman to be Secretary of State. Albright had been born in Prague before her family moved to the United States, fleeing the Holocaust. She helped adapt U.S. foreign policy to this complex new world. The United States worked to protect global peace and democracy. In the 1990s, terrorism, the use of violence by individuals or small groups to advance political goals, became a major issue. There was an attempt to bomb the World Trade Center buildings in 1993. And in April 1995, an American terrorist bombed a federal building in Oklahoma City, killing 168 people. The United States also faced increasingly deadly attacks by extremist Islamic groups. Hundreds were killed in bomb attacks on U.S. embassies in Africa in 1998. Yet, the 1990s is often remembered as a decade of relative peace and prosperity. The Cold War was over, and the rise of the internet ushered in a radical new era of communication, business, and entertainment. I remember when my parents got excited they could send emails back and forth to each other, and it only took one day for the electronic mail to arrive.
You've got mail.
Of course, I am viewing the 90s through my childhood eyes, and so my memories of the 90s is filled with mostly Disney movies. Think of your favorite Disney movie. I guarantee you it's a 90s classic. I still remember the day my mother surprised me after preschool with The Lion King on VHS. And kids today probably don't know what a VHS is. Man, I miss the 90s.
Butterfly in the sky. I can go twice as high. Take a look. It's in a book. A reading